Well, another sunny day around Lake Norman, just a bit cooler with high temperatures in the upper 70s. Chilly tonight under a clear sky as we fall back into the upper 40s. Upper 70s again for our Friday, but we get back into the low 80s for Saturday as a cold front rolls through, brings us a few extra clouds and may be able to squeeze out a sprinkle, but we're headed for a big time change. High temperatures drop into the 60s by Sunday. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Folks, here at Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville, we have got the brand new 2025 Chevrolet Traverse in stock, all redesigned from front to back, top to bottom, inside and out. Come see them today. We have got a great selection of these new Traverses ready for you to take home. And also, we got great discounts on our Silverado trucks. We got the regular cab, crew cab, double cabs, discounted up to $9,000 off. Great selection, Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville, right on I-40.
The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the views of WSIC.
Hello and welcome to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for hanging with us here. 4 o'clock hour. If you're a 9 to 5er, you got 53 minutes and 25 seconds until we get to that bell to hit the end of the day. And I appreciate so much you spending that time with us here on Dollars and Cents as we give attention to, and perhaps we'll even spark some conversation regarding items of financial importance. Now, we're looking at all manner of subjects. We're going to be looking at all kinds of things today: economic data, company information. We're going to be looking at some things in a positive. Unfortunately, there's some negative out there as well. We're going to be looking at that kind of stuff also. But in doing so, nothing here, as you recall, is intended as a specific recommendation for you. Meaning that even though we're going to be looking at these companies, again, sometimes in a positive light, got some very robust earnings that came out here from several companies. And also we got some companies that are really challenged right now, as is always the case. But in doing so, again, everybody's situation is unique. We are not making any recommendations here and strongly recommend that you reach out to your tax advisor, to your financial advisor, or if you'd like to reach out to us at North Main Financial Group, love to hear from you, love to chat about your particular financial situation, see if there are ways in which we might be able to be helpful to you. Online, you can find us at northmainfinancial.com. That's north like the direction, Main like the street, financial.com. northmainfinancial.com. We have a contact page on there. Leave us your information. Let us know the most preferred and desirable ways for us to contact you, again, at northmainfinancial.com. You're also welcome to call us here in the studio. Can't promise I'm going to get to your subject here today, but you're welcome to call in, and if I can't connect to it, definitely leave your question or the item that you'd like for us to address. If I can't get to it today, I promise I'm going to get to it in the following week. 844-STUDIO-4. That's 844-788-3464 here in the studio. Again, 844-788-3464 here in the studio. Let us know. Something on your radar screen? There's a lot of stuff out there right now. I know, probably going to get a question about the election. What does that mean for the markets? I mean, come on now. We've been addressing this for the last several weeks. Chances are, let's say, perfect that I'm going to address it again here today, talking about where things are with regards to the markets, the election, and all things that go along with that. It's a little bit of a teaser. You got to hang around. That's the back end of the show. Let's get into markets here. Talking about what's happening in our stock market specifically. Got to start with the company. We've touched on them here now for the last several weeks. And they're so big. They're such a large employer here in the country. Maybe not so much here in the Carolinas, but definitely get into the Midwest. I'm looking at Missouri, and then you get to the Western Coast. Definitely looking at the state of Washington, and even our Eastern Coast here in outside of Charleston. I'm looking at Boeing. And Boeing, Bravo Alpha is the ticker symbol. Not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock. You know from previous shows, we've talked a lot about the strike of one of their machinists' unions and 33,000 workers on strike. We're talking about a lot of folks here. So we're talking about most of the engineers for domestic airline production, meaning those planes which have been ordered, which are intended for domestic airlines or airline companies here in the States. I'm looking at United. I'm looking at Delta. I'm looking at American. And they have been on strike now coming into 6 weeks. A lot of anticipation as there was a proposal floated several days ago. I want to say it was about 4 or 5 days ago by Boeing there's been a lot of negotiation back and forth between the union and the Boeing representatives for a new contract proposal with the union, a proposal, let's call it a counter proposal at this point. I think that would be most appropriate. Coming from Boeing here several days ago, there was anticipation of a response from the union yesterday, Wednesday, as of the time of this live broadcast, or as of the time of this recording, and there was anticipation. I'm going to say they were ahead of the curve. I mean, but there was a lot of anticipation in some of the popular so-called expert spaces that the union was going to take it. Well, unfortunately, they didn't. And I don't say unfortunately because I think the union should have taken it. I say unfortunately because the strike is still going on. So coming into 6 weeks now, here with the strike going on, the union rejected the proposal from Boeing management with regards to a new contract with them. 33,000 engineers and machinists still on strike, and that's huge, folks. I mean, I've talked with you about the amount of revenue loss for Boeing as a result of this strike. It's upwards of $2 million a day, between $1 million and $2 million a day. So we're talking about a tremendous amount of productivity loss here. And now the challenge is, well, now what comes next? Because there was some anticipation that this was going to be a contract that the union would agree to sign, and obviously not. And so now there's some concern about what happens next. You heard me say here in last week's show on Dollars and Cents that Boeing had floated out publicly that they are going to be raising some capital. Now, you may say, okay, if they're raising capital, they're raising some money, that in and of itself, not such a big deal. Yeah, unless you're a shareholder or a bondholder of Boeing, meaning a current shareholder or bondholder of Boeing. Because there are one of two ways in which they're going to do that. One is they take out debt, i.e., they're going to sell bonds, increases their debt load. And the possibility is, and this has been floated by Standard & Poor's, S&P, one of the primary rating agencies that's out there, the possibility is, depending upon how much debt is sold, that the rating agency would move the rating status for Boeing debt into the junk rating status. And you may say, okay, that's maybe not such a big, it's a huge deal. Huge deal when you're looking at it from a cost of capital standpoint. And if that happens, you're looking at cost of capital increases to Boeing of 50, 60, 70, even 100% in some instances, depending upon the type of debt that's issued. Huge issue with regards to the ongoing strength of the company. So if they sell debt, that's what's going to happen there. If they sell stock, which they can also do, they have treasury stock, they can sell it in the open market. Well, you may not notice it immediately, but that means there is a dilution in terms of your ownership of Boeing, the company. Meaning that when there's more stock issued, that means that either current shareholders get more stock if they buy it, or new shareholders buy it. That means there's dilution as far as your ownership in the company is concerned. And that's true for everybody. That's not just true for you as a Boeing shareholder. That's true for institutions. It's really not desirable. And often the price of the stock comes down as a result because there's more stock out there. If the market capitalization isn't going to go up, you can follow me with the math on this, then you're probably going to see a decrease in the stock price. So not desirable at all. So either issuing debt in terms of selling bonds, issuing new capital stock to be sold in the markets. But if you're hearing a company doing that, now let me back that all the way up. If you're hearing a company doing that, especially the size that Boeing is, not a good sign. It's not. When you're looking at it in terms of what companies do in terms of how they raise capital, what they do for day-to-day cash flow reasons and for acquisitions. They're not doing any of that. This is just to make sure that they can continue going as a current concern. I'm not saying they're going to go bankrupt. I don't see that. But they obviously need to do a lot of it because they raised the number of $25 billion in terms of what they may need to raise here over the next 2 to 3 years. And so when you're looking at $25 billion, that's huge. That's a huge amount of capital to raise that is not going for acquisition or anything that it is in terms of material appreciation, rather just to float the operation. Big deal. We're going to be watching that. Big company. That's why I'm spending time on it, and I appreciate you spending time here. On Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial, we're going to take a couple seconds now to hear from our sponsors. Hang with us as we come back on WSIC.
keep it right here. Dollars and Cents with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi will return shortly on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Well, another sunny day around Lake Norman, just a bit cooler with high temperatures in the upper 70s. Chilly tonight under a clear sky as we fall back into the upper 40s. Upper 70s again for our Friday, but we get back into the low 80s for Saturday as a cold front rolls through. Brings us a few extra clouds and may be able to squeeze out a sprinkle, but we're headed for a big-time change. High temperatures drop into the 60s by Sunday. That's your forecast for the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
The app with Lake Norman deals. The WSIC app is out now, wherever you get your apps.
Cakes and cookies, toys and gifts.
The Southern Christmas Show, November 14th through 24th at the Park Expo and Conference Center. Save on tickets at southernChristmasShow.com, courtesy of Kraft Body Scan.
The Southern Christmas Show.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Brookdale Village in Huntersville presents the Live Under the Oaks season finale on Friday. This free outdoor concert series comes to a close with a Kids in America performance at 6 p.m. powered by Waves Entertainment. Grab your lawn chairs and your friends for the Live Under the Oaks season finale Friday night at Brookdale Village. Sunday is the annual Boo Fest at Ghostface Brewing in Mooresville. Put on your Halloween costume and enjoy the party with a live concert by Alice Cooper tribute band Love It to Death. Ghostface will be serving up cold brews, their delicious kitchen will be open with a full menu, and Beer Lab will have mixed drinks. Spend Sunday at Ghostface Brewing in Mooresville for the Boo Fest Halloween party. The Dirt Track at Charlotte Motor Speedway presents the World of Outlaws World Finals on the 6th of November through the 9th. Catch Dirt Racing's top 3 series for 4 days of action to decide their championships, featuring the World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series, the World of Outlaws Late Model Series, and the Super Dirt Car Big Block Modifieds. Single day and 4-day ticket packages and camping information are all available at charlottemotorspeedway.com. Often imitated, never duplicated. The World of Outlaws World Finals invade the Charlotte Motor Speedway Dirt Track in November. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
The Renaissance Festival is back, Saturdays and Sundays, now through November 24th. Eat, drink, be merry at the Renaissance Festival. Tickets available online only at renfestinfo.com. Don't miss it!
It's Dollars and Cents with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for hanging with us here. Second quarter of today's show, Football Reference. I got to talk about our Panthers. I know, I do it. It's kind of a second quarter ritual at this point. And, it's challenging. Producer Reach, you got to agree with me here. I mean, it's challenging. It's challenging to be a fan right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is where the rubber hits the road. I mean, if this is where the true fans hold on and the bandwagon folks fade away. So you're hanging with me here. You're still on the train.
Oh
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But I do understand the struggle.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's a challenging space here right now. And I heard some news. You may have heard this as well. I should really talk with our sports producer Joe Berg, which, by the way, he's going to be on here right after me, 5 to 6 a.m. Coming up with the scoreboard here, going to give you the real insight on what's happening in the sports universe. I'm certain he's going to be talking about this, but I saw some news, producer Reese, that we're going to have Bryce Young back as the starting quarterback.
Yes.
Very interesting. Now I know that Andy Dalton, I think he was in a minor car accident this past week, and so probably out of an abundance of caution, they're going to make sure that he's all right and not permanently injured or has some long lasting kinds of things there. So they're going to bring Bryce Young back. So.
I think he had a thumb injury.
Is that what it is?
Accident.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that's a big deal, and it doesn't matter if it's a throwing hand or the catch hand.
Right.
I mean, that's a real big deal. Yeah. So, all right. Hope springs eternal. We're still. We will not get off. If we've come this far, producer Reese, we're not getting off the train at this point here. All right. Well, thanks for listening to us as we're talking here about sports here because it's football season. I mean, when it's not football season, folks, here on Dollars and Cents, we're talking about football. Now we're in football season. You're going to hear it from us. So we're watch our Panthers. If you're a college football fan, lots of fun out there right now as well in terms of watching the college football season, but I appreciate you hanging with us here. As we get into the second quarter, talking about what's hot, talked about Boeing before we went to break there, and again, Boeing, Bravo Alpha, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock. Very, very important from our country standpoint. They are the number one manufacturer of commercial airlines in our country by a huge margin. It's not even close. There really isn't anybody who even comes close to that. Their closest competition is a group called Airbus based out of France, in terms of certainly of manufacturing commercial airliners. And their largest, Boeing's largest machinist union, still on strike, rejected the contract yesterday. Going to be interesting to see. Week 6, lots of money being lost. Probably going to have to raise some capital. It's going to be interesting to see what's happening. All right, another company. I don't mean to be so negative here. I'm going to have to get some positive stuff after this, but I got to bring this company up. One of the arguably best-known brands on the planet. And as soon as you hear me say the name, you're going to understand why. Going through some challenging times right now with regards to some things that were found in some of the supplies. I'm looking at McDonald's. Ticker symbol, Mary Charlie David, MCD, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold McDonald's stock. If you're watching any of the news right now, you probably know what I'm going to say next. Having an issue with E. coli, foodborne illness, or foodborne, pathogen that causes severe illness in some cases and even death. And there's one death attributed to it so far, about 50 illnesses. Looks like it's concentrated in the West, and that doesn't make it right or wrong, good or bad, but it looks like it's concentrated in the Colorado region, Wyoming region. I know Kansas affected by it as well. I even want to say Utah, maybe Idaho as well, that they're being very cautious. And it has to do with a particular ingredient, sliced onions, which go only on the quarter pounder. I found that very interesting. I was doing a little bit of research on that. I didn't realize, and I guess I should have, but I didn't realize that there is a differential in onions on hamburgers at McDonald's. Meaning specifically, there are different onions that go on the Big Mac. There are different onions that go on the regular hamburger. Didn't understand any of that, but definitely learned a little bit about it here recently. As the sliced onions that go on the quarter pounder were found to be the culprit from one particular source, meaning one particular supply source. And they believe, and this is from the CEO, that they have arrested the issue, and it's something that's not going to be an issue ongoing, but they have still pulled it from the menu in many of their markets, not just there in the West, in the Colorado, Wyoming, Utah region, not just in that area, but from other areas as well, through an abundance of caution for the obvious reasons. But the stock certainly took a hit. Looking at it in terms of what has done to the stock price, we look at the financial aspect of things here, obviously. Dropped significantly when the news came out, dropped about 10% when the news came out, bounced up to about 5% negative, still trading in the negative right now. It's going to be an issue. I mean, we look at other companies who have gone through these kinds of things. I'm thinking quickly of Chipotle, also publicly traded, Charlie Mary Green, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold their stock. They went through a similar kind of issue with regards to foodborne pathogen kind of things that were also causing some widespread sickness in a couple of different regions. They got over or past that as well from a company standpoint. Again, not speaking to the public health aspect, just looking to the financial aspect of things. And but it took a while. I mean, it took upwards of a year for them to be able to move on and pass that from a financial aspect. So we're going to be watching McDonald's, obviously a huge, huge company and one of the most dominant brands that's out there. So we're going to be watching them very, very closely to see what that means as far as their earnings and how they're going to address it. Now, they've been very aggressive in addressing it at this point, which we would expect, but still good to see. And then we're obviously going to see the impacts here over the coming days and weeks as well. Gonna go to another big name, and gosh, I feel like I'm lining up all the negative here. It's probably the Panthers. They're causing me to think negatively. No, I can't blame the Panthers for that. I got to think positively here, but I got to talk about this company first. We'll get into the positive here in a minute here, I promise. But got to look at Starbucks. Now, Starbucks, as you recall, has gone through a very significant restructuring process, including up to and including the CEO. They brought in, speaking of Chipotle, kind of interesting, they brought in a very high profile CEO here several weeks ago, Brian Nichols. Brian Nichols, really known for, actually, I was talking about the challenges at Chipotle. It's really how he's come to the forefront of being one of the most well-known CEOs in the country. He was the one who turned it around at Chipotle whenever they were going through those issues with regards to food-based illness issues. And he turned them around, and he really did a very, very good job there in terms of quality control and certainly getting them back on the straight and narrow. He was hired by Starbucks here several weeks ago, really to revamp things. Starbucks was slowing down in terms of same-store sales. They definitely weren't achieving the same kinds of margins and growth rates that they had aspired to do, and they came out with earnings here. And let me say there were muted expectations. By the way, Starbucks, ticker symbol, publicly traded, Sam Bravo, Umbrella X-Ray, SBUX, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock, or the debt, or anything else for that matter. But they came out here, they suspended guidance. Now, that may not sound like a big deal to you. It's a big deal in my end of the universe because in this day and age of regulation, FD, Franklin Domino, there is a requirement that companies are very, very forthright in displaying, putting out there what their guidance is for upcoming weeks, quarters, year, etc. And the reason for that is to reduce, doesn't eliminate, but to reduce the amount of, quote, insider information. So that it's much more stringent than it used to be. When a company suspends that, generally speaking, when they suspend their guidance, what their projections are for the coming weeks, quarter, year, not a good sign. Not a good sign because they know that the SEC is going to get excited about that, not in a good way, and so they do it because there are some significant issues from a financial standpoint that they really need to address. Now, what's interesting about that is Starbucks is not a startup company. Meaning it's not a company that just started trading here recently or is relatively new to the market or anything. We're talking about a very well established brand, very well established in the marketplace, the public markets, all that access. It's a big deal, and there's more to it. I mean, they had the steepest quarterly sales decline in 4 years. That's the third quarter in a row where they had significant pullback in sales. And I'm talking about same store sales, which if you follow the retail end of things, having a significant drop in same store sales, no bueno, not good, and not good at all. Because you generally speaking, I'll just say it from this standpoint. Generally speaking, with a new store, whether you're talking about retail with clothes or food, when you have a new location, you have the excitement factor, right? So when you have the excitement factor, those new stores tend to do pretty well, meaning they tend to sell well and they tend to put up good numbers. The real meat, the real rubber on the road, metaphorically, is with same store sales. Those stores that have been there for a while, those are the ones that the market tracks much closer because that tends to be indicative of company strength in terms of consumer spending. And so they had the third quarter in a row of declining sales, steepest decline in the last 4 years here with the ones that were just announced. Challenging for Starbucks shareholders, challenging in terms of what comes next. Now, is that an indictment in terms of Starbucks not going to be doing well for the long term? Probably not. I mean, as the C-suite said at Starbucks pretty quickly, we're going to have to go through some pain to get to the gain, and I agree with that. When you do a massive restructuring, especially with a company the size of Starbucks, you've got to crack some eggs, to be metaphorical, and I mean that because you have to be able to get to the root cause of the problem. And with a company the size of Starbucks, you're not going to be able to do that overnight. It's not going to be the kind of thing where you're going to be able just to pivot and be able to say, okay, everything's better again. It's going to take a little bit of time, and I think this quarter is showing that, and that's what the market is seeing right now. They're seeing a little bit about the depth of the concern from a corporate management standpoint that they're having to manage, and so I think it's going to rectify. It's going to clean up. It's not a recommendation on the stock, but they definitely are motivated. They definitely understand it, and that's something that's going to be addressed here. Kind of similar, very interesting, kind of similar to what happened at Nike. Ticker symbol Nancy Kelly Edward. Kind of similar what happened over there as well. They're in a challenging space. Boy, you get into the athleisure, sports end of things, very, very competitive right now, crushing those margins really, really hard. It'll be interesting to see what Starbucks does. Appreciate you hanging with us here on Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial. Hang with us, folks, as we hear from our sponsors here on WSIC.
There's more of Dollars and Cents with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi on the way from 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, another sunny day around Lake Norman, just a bit cooler with high temperatures in the upper 70s. Chilly tonight under a clear sky as we fall back into the upper 40s. Upper 70s again for our Friday, but we get back into the low 80s for Saturday as a cold front rolls through. Brings us a few extra clouds and may be able to squeeze out a sprinkle, but we're headed for a big time change. High temperatures drop into the 60s by Sunday. That's your forecast for the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Hi, this is Bob McIntosh with the McIntosh Law Firm in Davidson. Since 1997, we have been committed to providing our clients with competent, caring, and experienced legal services. Learn more at McIntoshLawFirm.com.
Welcome home to the feeling of Horn Heating and Air Conditioning is family owned and operated and understands the meaning of community. We treat you like family because you are family. Visit hornhvac.com.
Hi, this is Andy with Lake Mountain Coffee located at 110 West Broad Street in Statesville. Did you know we also own and operate Statesville's first coffee roasting facility? We roast coffee beans for businesses, fundraising events, special occasions such as a wedding. We can even put a custom message on the back of your bags. If you're a company or simply someone with a coffee need, give us a call at 704-252-1886. And remember, if you want fresh, you must go local.
If you have an upcoming event, let WSIC spread the word. Go to WSICnews.com and click on the Community Calendar button. WSIC, proud to be part of your community.
Prioritizing your health is one of the best ways to take care of yourself. From routine visits to the joys of pregnancy to the illnesses that stop you in your tracks, Iredell Health System will be by your side. Learn more at iredellhealth.org.
DrumLandscapeSupply.com. DrumLandscapeSupply.com. DrumLandscapeSupply.com.
Honey, what are you doing?
Oh, I figured if I rubbed my lawn and said DrumLandscapeSupply.com, I'd have the dream lawn I've always wanted.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Just minutes to go ahead of Wall Street's closing bell, and stocks are on track to end the day mixed. Right now, the Dow is down about 1/3%. The tech-heavy NASDAQ, though, up 0.8%, on track for its first gain this week. The S&P 500 up 0.25%. Now, the NASDAQ is getting a big boost from shares of Tesla. They are soaring, up 22% right now after posting a surprise $2 billion profit last quarter. And it's predicting EV sales next year could soar 30% higher. Also, higher shares of UPS up 5% after delivering more packages and charging higher rates last quarter. Burger King, Taco Bell, KFC, and Pizza Hut, all of them pulling onions from some of their restaurants in response to that deadly McDonald's E. coli outbreak, believed to have been linked to onions in its quarter pounder. And sales of newly built homes in September getting help from a dip in interest rates, but since then, long-term rates have moved higher for 4 weeks in a row, right now averaging 6.54%. Tom Busby, Bloomberg Radio.
Dollars and Cents continues now. Here's your host, certified financial planner Joshua Dobi on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for hanging with us here. Second half football reference. And hanging with us here on Dollars and Cents, talking about all things economic and financial. And as I felt like I spent a significant amount of the first half talking about things negative. We're going to go positive here. I don't like dwelling on the negative aspect of things. Got to bring it to you. Those kinds of things are out there, whether we're talking about McDonald's, or we're talking about Boeing, or we're talking about those kinds of things, or companies that Starbucks, that we're out there not doing as well right now. But I got to bring in some stuff that's going to bring a smile to your face. I'm going to start with something that I think it's impossible not. Well, I can't say that, because if you have some sensitivity to eating crackers, I really can't say that it's possible not to like it. I'm going to Goldfish crackers. Now, if you have any children under the age of 3, I'm going to say you probably have an idea, at least what I'm discussing when I say goldfish crackers. Goldfish crackers, I mean, they're in the white bag, white paper style bag. I don't know, it's about 6 inches high or so. Pepperidge Farm makes them. Pepperidge Farm, owned by Campbell's. Ticker symbol Charlie Paul Bravo. CPB is the ticker symbol for them. Not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock. I mean, they have come out several times, and I know this firsthand because I had younger children at one point, and frankly, my slightly older children still eat a lot of these goldfish crackers. And so we have them at our house with some regularity. So I also know that they have a variety of different flavors, and they try different things here periodically. Now, they're coming out with one here. I got to tell you, I scratched my head a little bit at this. And it's not, obviously, I'm not the expert. So that's what, nobody called me from Campbell's to ask me if they thought it was a good idea, which I'm sure there's a very legitimate reason why they didn't give me a call. They're coming out with Chilean sea bass. Chileans. I like sea bass as a fish, meaning Chilean sea bass. You go to a restaurant, you get a piece of fish. Sometimes Chilean sea bass is on the menu there. Definitely like it. Definitely, it's a thicker fish, pretty robust in terms of its consistency. Definitely flavorful. Definitely very enjoyable when prepared well. They're coming out with Chilean sea bass goldfish crackers. Now, I get the crossover. I mean, Producer Reese, I mean, this one, I'm scratching my. You tell me. Maybe I'm just not up to speed on this. Is
Yeah.
it? No.
I don't get that.
Okay, so it's not just me. So we got at least
No.
two of us, you
Yeah.
and me, who are shaking our heads at this.
Yes.
And again, Campbell's didn't call us, so they're obviously not too concerned about what we think about it. There must be a
Yeah.
whole lot of people out there who are drawing the parallel between the shape of the cracker and a Chilean sea bass. To be able to make that happen.
I mean, I guess.
I mean, the flavor, though, I mean, all I can think of is a fishy flavor, and I don't think I want a fishy flavor with my
No.
cracker. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't.
All right. See, that's two of us. So that's two. Campbell's, give us a call if you need some insight. They're not going to call. I wouldn't call me either. Are you kidding me? But anyhow. All right. So along the lines of crackers and chips and all things snack related, we like to eat here at WSIC. This is not a surprise to you. We love food on this end of things, and I do tie it into the financial markets as well. Got to talk about Frito-Lay. Frito-Lay is a potato chip company primarily. They also do other kinds of snacks as well, owned by Pepsi. So PepsiCo, the publicly traded company PepsiCo, ticker symbol Paul Edward Paul, PEP. Not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold PepsiCo. PepsiCo, yes, they are primarily in the drink business when I'm looking at soft drinks or I'm looking at energy drinks or waters and those kinds of things, but also they have a very significant snack business within the Frito-Lay brand end of things. Frito-Lay sounds a little bit like what we were talking about here several weeks ago, maybe even a couple of months ago, with regards to what Burger King was doing. No, excuse me. Yes, what Burger King was doing. And you'll know it as a previous listener with what I'm talking about next. There is a contest right now that Frito-Lay is putting on. It's been 7 years since they have brought this contest up, meaning it's had different times they've brought this out to the public, where the public can participate in selecting a new flavor for Frito-Lay chips, meaning a specific flavor that they have not produced previously in 2025. Now, before you turn on the volume or turn us off altogether, hold on here. The grand prize, if you're the one that gets chosen, $1 million. $1 million. Similar to what we were talking about with the Burger King Whopper here several weeks ago. I mean, if you were the one who actually got the one that chose the particular Whopper combination, $1 million. Frito-Lay doing the same thing. I mean, literally, they're taking in your thoughts about what you think would be a good flavor of Frito-Lay potato chip if they choose yours. By the way, second and third prize, not so bad. $50,000 if you happen to be in second or third place as it regards to a voting process that the public actually makes. $1 million for the grand prize if you choose the flavor, the new flavor for Frito-Lay's chips that is voted on by the public and then produced by Frito-Lay. Pretty amazing stuff. It's going to happen in 2025. Take a look at it. Google me. You don't have to believe me. I mean, look, Google knows all things, certainly a whole lot more than I do, based upon whatever comes up whenever I Google anything. $1 million for the next flavor of Frito-Lay chips. That's pretty amazing. And I will also raise my hand to say I am not one who is is particularly picky when it comes to flavors of Frito-Lay chips. Pretty much my favorite one is the one that's within arm reach. It really is. I'm not that it's so whatever this new one is, sure, I'll try it. But it hasn't happened in 7 years that they brought this contest out. Pretty interesting that that it's happened here. Kind of interesting. So make sure you take a look at that. If you're one who thinks you have the best flavor possibility for Frito-Lay chips, make sure you go online, enter that in there, and who knows, you might become a millionaire as a result of doing it. All right, let's keep moving here. I want to talk about a couple of things just in terms of the tax end of the universe and Social Security end of the universe. A couple of big points that have come out here over the last couple of weeks. Want to make sure that you're aware of them. So this is the what to know segment. This is the kind of stuff that may be applicable to you, certainly applicable to folks that you may know, and certainly colleagues and friends and others. Got to talk about Social Security first. So you heard us talk about the projections on the cost of living adjustment. I want to make sure that you're aware of them. Coming into January, I had mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. Want to make sure that I'm mentioning it again in case you happen to miss it. Cost of living adjustment for Social Security income recipients. Every single year, there's a cost of living adjustment, which is based, I'm going to say my words, roughly on CPI, roughly on the Consumer Price Index. It's not purely on CPI. They X out a couple of things in the algorithm whenever they're doing the cost of living adjustment, but roughly it's based upon CPI. 2.5%. 2.5% is going to be the increase in Social Security income here come January if you are a current Social Security recipient. Again, 2.5% is the increase in Social Security income. Cost of living adjustment is going to be effective here in January of 2025. Want to make sure you're aware of that. Again, 2.5% with regards to the cost of living for Social Security. Also, some announcements going to a different agency for just a moment. Some announcements from the Internal Revenue Service, from the IRS, about different brackets for taxation, meaning that each year there are increases in certain income levels or income level allotments for certain segments of the tax code, meaning that for brackets in terms of how you're taxed and how much is taxed at what percentage, those usually are adjusted each and every year. This one I'm going to talk about has to do with capital gains. So capital gains do not apply to everybody, but if you happen to be in a space where you sold something which has a capital gain applicable to it, this actually makes sense. So it could be you sold a mutual fund, a stock, a piece of real estate, could be any number of things which has a capital gain associated with it. The Social Security, or excuse me, the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, came out with brackets about when you start to pay capital gains taxes. Now, I'm going to use real rough and round figures here. You want to go to irs.gov to get the exact brackets. Just want to make you aware that generally speaking, if you earn $50,000 or less in adjusted gross income as an individual, or roughly just under $100,000 or less as married filing jointly, you will not pay any capital gains taxes on a capital gains event, generally speaking. I have to say it that way. Always have to put generally speaking in there because there are always caveats. There are always possibilities where there may be a different set of rules which apply to you. But generally speaking, $50,000 or less as an individual, $100,000 or less as a married filing jointly tax return, you are not going to pay any capital gains taxes. Now, this is just slightly above what it was this year. So this is not a new law. This is not something that just came into play and that, we're bringing it here as breaking news or anything like that. No, nothing like that. This is just a slight increase over what it was. I'm just making you aware that it's out there so that if you're in a space where you have had a capital gain or capital gains event here in 2024, that you're aware of that. And it really has to do with the income which is above that level, which is going to be taxed for capital gains. Meaning, if you have income which is below that level, generally speaking, you're not going to pay capital gains taxes, even though you have a capital gain. Kind of nice. Oh, it's not nice. I don't want to get into the semantics on it. But what I'm saying is you won't be responsible for capital gains taxes if you're in a space where you're below those income limits. And that's really what's most important. So important to be mindful of that. If you have a capital gain scenario, make sure you're paying attention to it, especially as you're filing your taxes. I know we're getting to the end of the year. I know taxes aren't filed until April in most instances, and you're not worried about it too much at this point. But there are some things that you need to keep in mind before we get to the end of the calendar year, which are especially applicable and that you want to keep in mind, because once the bell tolls there on December 31st or December 31st rather, or the last business day before December 31st, you need to have things in place before that time. Anything that happens after that, not going to be applicable to this tax year. Very, very important to keep in mind. All right, we're going to take a break here one more time as we get ready for the fourth quarter. Thank you so much for hanging with us here on Dollars and Cents. Hang with us as we come back for the fourth quarter.
Dollars and Cents with your host, certified financial planner Joshua Dobi, continues straight ahead on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Well, another sunny day around Lake Norman, just a bit cooler with high temperatures in the upper 70s. Chilly tonight under a clear sky as we fall back into the upper 40s. Upper 70s again for our Friday, but we get back into the low 80s for Saturday as a cold front rolls through, brings us a few extra clouds and may be able to squeeze out a sprinkle, but we're headed for a big-time change. High temperatures drop into the 60s by Sunday. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Cakes and cookies, toys and gifts.
The Southern Christmas Show, November 14th through 24th at the Park Expo and Conference Center. Save on tickets at southernChristmasShow.com, courtesy of Kraft Body Scan.
The Southern Christmas Show.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Burkdale Village in Huntersville presents the Live Under the Oaks season finale on Friday. This free outdoor concert series comes to a close with a Kids in America performance at 6 p.m. powered by Waves Entertainment. Grab your lawn chairs and your friends for the Live Under the Oaks season finale Friday night at Burkdale Village. Sunday is the annual Boo Fest at Ghostface Brewing in Mooresville. Put on your Halloween costume and enjoy the party with a live concert by Alice Cooper tribute band Love It to Death. Ghostface will be serving up cold brews, their delicious kitchen will be open with a full menu, and Beer Lab will have mixed drinks. Spend Sunday at Ghostface Brewing in Mooresville for the Boo Fest Halloween party. The Dirt Track at Charlotte Motor Speedway presents the World of Outlaws World Finals on the 6th of November through the 9th. Catch Dirt Racing's top 3 series for 4 days of action to decide their championships, featuring the World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series, the World of Outlaws Late Model Series, and the Super Dirt Car Big Block Modifieds. Single day and 4-day ticket packages and camping information are all available at charlottemotorspeedway.com. Often imitated, never duplicated. The World of Outlaws World Finals invade the Charlotte Motor Speedway Dirt Track in November. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
The Renaissance Festival is back Saturdays and Sundays, now through November 24th. Eat, drink, be merry at the Renaissance Festival. Tickets available online only at renfestinfo.com. Don't miss it!
Making your money make sense. Dollars and Cents with CFP Joshua Dobi on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much. Hanging with us here into the fourth quarter football reference of today's show. You got 11 minutes, 55 seconds till you get to that 5 o'clock hour if you're a 9 to 5er, and I appreciate so much you hanging with us here as we give attention to all things economic, financial. We've covered a lot of bases today. We still got more. We're going to squeeze some more here in the fourth quarter. We're not coasting. It's not the kind of thing where we're just taking a breather here until we get to the finish line. We're going to sprint on through. Got to bring you a couple of other ones here. I got to talk about this company. I mean, you're going to, I've talked McDonald's, I've talked Boeing, I've talked Starbucks. Those are all very, very powerful brands. This next one hasn't been around as long as those three have been, but it's tough to argue from a branding standpoint that they're not up there with them in terms of being it's one of the most powerful brands out there right now, certainly here in the U.S., and that is Tesla. Tesla, I usually say the electric car company, but their CEO and one of their founders, Elon Musk, says I need to think about them as a software and AI company. That's what he says. He's the CEO, so I'll make sure that I describe them that way. Tesla, ticker symbol Tom, Sam, Larry, Alpha, TSLA. Not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock. Wow, did they crush it here in their quarterly earnings? I mean, and I have to say, wow, because it was so far removed from the expectation of the street, meaning removed in a positive way from the expectation of the street. Their stock move, this is actually real time before I came on the air here, as of the time of this live broadcast or as of the time of this recording, if you're listening to the podcast, their stock was up over 20% in one day. 20% for a company the size, when you're talking about $100 billion companies here, when you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars moving 20% or more in a day, that's gargantuan. I mean, you're talking about tens of billions of dollars in one day in increase in market cap. And the market loved it. Market loved the quarterly earnings. I would offer up that what the market really loved is what Elon Musk said as part of his report there in the quarterly earnings call after the close of business yesterday, when he talked about the possibility for sales growth in this coming year. I mean, it's astounding. I mean, I'm dumbfounded. It is astounding. He said sales growth of 20 to 30% next year is possible. Now, again, if you're a startup company or you're a smaller company or small business, you're just getting started and you're ramping up very quickly, 20 to 30% is not outside the realm. That actually is understandable because you're starting with a relatively small number. We're talking about tens of billions of dollars of increase here. And he's talking about it happening in the next 12 months, or let's say 15 months, relatively speaking. That's an amazing amount of growth. And what's challenging about it is, and this, once you put it out there into the ether, once it's out there into the market ether, the market is pretty relentless in holding you to it. And so he's now put himself out there on the clock relative to that kind of sales growth in here over the course of the next year. That would be huge. I mean, if you talk about 20 to 30% growth in sales over the course here of the next year, that would be astounding. That would be a tremendous increase over where they are right now. Just amazing. And the market loved it. Like I said, stock price up over 20% in a day. Not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold Tesla, obviously. Actually, I wish you would have bought it yesterday. If you're looking to buy it, and I'm not a recommendation to do that because it's past tense. I wish you would have bought it yesterday to get the 20% bump today. But amazing amount. That's the most growth that the company has had in a single day in 11 years. I mean, 11 years ago, much smaller company, dramatically smaller company. So when I talked about how it's much easier for smaller companies to move with that kind of incremental movement in a single day, that's what I was describing. You're talking about a huge company now, huge company. And so you're talking about tens of billions of dollars of market cap increase in a single day. Wow. Well, I don't care who you are. I mean, you can not like Tesla. You can not own Tesla. You can not like Elon Musk. None of it really matters. That's just an astounding amount of growth in a singular day. Going to be interesting to see if they can come through on that 20 to 30% sales growth here in a single calendar year. That's going to be a huge deal. All right. Now, I always leave the markets until we get to the fourth quarter here. I know I like to keep you around. If I started talking markets early on in the show here, I might lose you. You might escape out of here. Of course, then you would miss out on all the cool stuff like what's happening with Frito-Lay chips and their $1 million I'm going to say it, $1 million contest to choose the next flavor of Frito-Lay's chips. I mean, folks, it doesn't matter how crazy your idea is. Put it out there. See what's going to happen. Like I said, even if you don't get first place, second and third place, $50,000 each. Not exactly chump change. It's a little bit more than I have in the cushions of my car, right? I mean, that's a great deal. You got to check that kind of stuff out. So you'd miss out on all that. But I know you like to hear the market stuff, so let me get into it here. Let's talk about where we are right now. In terms of the market indices, meaning in terms of the performance of the most popular stock indices, so I'm looking at Dow Jones Industrial Average, I'm looking at S&P 500 Index, I'm looking at NASDAQ Composite on the equity side of things. Pretty amazing. And when you look at just the index performance, pretty amazing to see this year's performance year over year, especially compared to last year, 2023, when we had similar kind of performance in the indices. Also similar to what we've had here in the last year, we have a very small portion of the market which is overwhelmingly powering that performance. I know you're gonna say I sound like a broken record, and for all of those of you who don't know what a record is, shame on you. No, I'm just kidding. I know a lot of you don't know what a record is or have a record player or ever even seen a record player. But when I sound like a broken record, that means something that repeats itself here over over a significant period of time. And I have said this a number of times previously with regards to what's happening with our stock indexes. It's a relatively small number of stocks, and specifically one sector, which is overwhelmingly powering that performance. And it's not to say that everything else is bad. That's not true, actually, this year. When you look at the major market sectors, I'm looking at real estate, I'm looking at financials, I'm looking at all the different derivatives of technology, not just the big cap technology names, but all of the consumer products. It's been a positive year. It really has been, almost completely across the board. And when I say completely across the board, that doesn't mean every company by any stretch. Plenty of companies that have really not done well this year. But it is true that the sectors, when you look at them in aggregate, the sectors are collections of companies that are used for means of measurement. It has been a very good year. And so when we're looking at that from an index standpoint, you look at something like the S&P index, which is up there around 20% year-to-date performance as of the time of this live broadcast or as of the time of this recording. If you're listening to the podcast end of things, you may think, wow, the overall market's doing amazing. Everything is up 20% again this year. No, not true. Remember, S&P 500 index, market cap weighted. What does that mean? Larger the company, bigger the influence over the index computation. What are the largest companies inside of the S&P 500 index? Look down the list. You're going to get almost exclusively large cap technology companies, which means that the majority, overwhelming majority, and when I'm talking about overwhelming majority, I'm talking about north of 90% of the positive performance inside of the S&P 500 index this year is a function of technology-based companies. Now, that doesn't make it right or wrong, good or bad. It's just important to be aware of that, meaning be aware of what you own. I've heard a lot of folks say through the years, countless folks say through the years, well, if I just own the S&P 500 index, then I own the market, and that's really all I need to own. No. And that's really my response to them whenever somebody says that. I appreciate the assumption that is, and I understand why folks would think that. I own 500 companies. It's going to be a very wide swath of the American equity markets, and this is really what to own if I want to really own the entirety of the stock market. No. Not with how these are put together. By the way, just so you don't think I'm picking on the S&P 500 index, Dow Jones Industrial Average, price weighted. So not market cap weighted, price weighted. What that means is the larger the price per share, the more influence it has over the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Seems a little crazy, right? Because if you look at companies that go through stock splits, nothing happens in a stock split except that the price gets reduced on that particular company. So you're going to have a smaller stock price, and then you go to a much smaller influence. If you happen to be in the Dow, you're going to a much smaller influence over the Dow movement, even though nothing happened with the company. So there are shortcomings with every index. That's really my point here, is that you want to be very, very careful as you're making comparisons, that you're doing so in the proverbial apples to apples, oranges to oranges, or as I like to say, just to shake it up a little bit, Volkswagens to Volkswagens. Make sure that you're comparing it appropriately, because it's really easy to say, okay, I've got this basket of investments over here, and I'm going to compare it to the S&P 500. Well, quite seriously, you may be comparing apples to Volkswagens, and that wouldn't be appropriate. It's not that it's a bad thing. It just wouldn't be appropriate in terms of looking at like kind or similar styles of investment, because with the S&P 500 index, as I mentioned here, that is overwhelmingly being influenced by large cap technology companies. There's nothing wrong with that. Just be aware of it so that you don't get yourself into a space, which has happened. We're seeing this a lot with clients right now who have had good success in the markets. They're getting very tech heavy. And that doesn't, again, not right or wrong, good or bad. You may want to be tech heavy, nothing wrong with that. But they aren't even aware that it's happening, because they think, well, we own the broad market index, so we're very well diversified. Not right now. Not right now, we're not. And that's very, very important when you're looking at your portfolio. Look at what you own. Understand what you own. You may think you own 500 companies, and yes, technically you do, but in terms of their influence over your portfolio, you own about 11. right now. Literally, you own about 11 companies right now when you're looking at the S&P 500 index. Very, very important to keep that kind of thing in mind. Very, very important to be mindful of that, especially as we're getting closer to the year end here. Do you need to do some rebalancing? Do you need to do some reallocation? Do you need to make sure that you're properly represented in each of the sectors where you want to be represented? Do you need to get more conservative? Maybe. Maybe you need to get more aggressive. But it's important to understand what you own. And especially, we see this a lot. That's why I'm bringing it up. This is the time to do it. If you've done well, you want to make these decisions into strength, not into weakness after everything is pulled back. You want to do it into strength, especially if you've had a good year. This is the time to do it. I know I keep pounding on it. I'm going to keep pounding on it until we get to the year end here to make sure that you're doing it well in advance. You don't want to be doing it on the back end of things, folks. That's the wrong time to be doing it. You got to wait it out at that point. Friends, I appreciate so much. Hang with us here on Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial. Tune in with us next week, Thursdays at 4 p.m. here on WSIC.
Serving you better than ever before. WSIC, Statesville, W290DK Mooresville, W264C